Today we're talking about mental health in the Somali community. Welcome to Shaah and Sheeko. My name is Saida Alim. I'm a mental health clinician.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Liban Yusuf. I'm a mental health clinician.
My name is Muna. I'm here on behalf of a friend.
Hi, my name is Hangatu, and I'm currently studying at Seattle U to get my clinical mental health counseling degree.
Assalamu alaikum, I'm Marian. I'm also a student, but at UW studying mental health.
My name is Nim Abdurrahman. I am a student at the UW also studying business.
Su-aasha noogu horeysa, our first question, waxa weeyaan, what is mental health? What is mental illness? And if you can give examples. Caafimaadka maskaxda muxuu yahay? Iyo dhimarka muxuu yahay? Haddaa examples dhiibi kartiin.
caafimaadka maskaxda in Somali is waxyaalo fara badan oo qofka la kulmo. Soomaalidu badanaa waali kaliya u haysataa, laakiin waali waa ka badan yahay. Waa qofku markuu isku buuqo, isla hadlo, uusan garanaynin yacni meesha uga maaragtay ka abaari lahay nolosha, ama uu isla hadlayo ama hadalkii uu kusoo noqnoqonayo oo maxay ahayd uusan hore uga socon karin fekerka maskaxdiisa kusoo dhacaya, asagoo u badan qofku inuu iska hurdo, in uu maxay ahayd qubaysan karin, in uu maxay ahayd gurigii waxba ka qabsan karin, ilmihiisa waxba u qabsan karin, amaba uu maxay ahayd runta iyo waxa aan runta ahayn uu kala saari waayo. Waa kala duwan yahay. Af Soomaali kuma hayo inta noocuu yahay, laakiin depression uu noqon karaa, anxiety uu noqon karaa, schizophrenia uu noqon karaa, iyo qofkiyo shaqsigiisii xataa marmar aan controli karin waxyaalaha dareenka uu dareemayo, oo uu marna farxayo marna xanaaqayo, dadka uu la hadlayana si dhaqsiye leh ama saaxiib ula noqonayo ama uu nacayo. Taasoo keeni karta qofkii in maaragtay lasoo saari waayo dabeecaddiisa maxay tahay. dabeecaddiyo maalina faraxsan maalina caraysan, saacado dhexdeed xataa moment by moment qofku uu marna faraxsan yahay marna xanaaqsan yahay. Especially dadka gaalada ah ku kalifta inay waxyaalo fara badan oo nolosha ku taxalluqa ay gabaan, shaqadii ay ka tegayaan, shaqadiinan xasilin karin, muxuu ahaay guurkiinan xasilin karin, ilmihiisa u dhaqan lahaayeenan xasilin karin. yacni isbedel fara badan oo xawli ah ayaa qofkii gelayo. xawligaas haddii aan maxay ahayd, waa markaan personality disorderka ka hadlayo, qofkii waxay ku keenaysaa in uu maaragtay nolosha qalqaali ka galo. annaga badanaa communitygeena personality disorder weli lama aanan kulmin qof Soomaaliya oo qaba, laakiin waxyaalaha waxaan ugu batay depressionka la yiraahdo, anxietyga la yiraahdo, schizophreniada, bipolarka hadda aragnaa bulshadii inay kusoo badanayaan. Caruuraha aan anigu la shaqay qaas ahaan oo high schoolada dhigtana waxa u raaca waxyaalahaas markii lagu arko in ilmihii ay bilaabaan waxyaalo maaragtay muqaadaraad inay isticmaalaan si ay maaragtay noloshoodii uga dhigaan wax caadi ah ama normal ah. If we can forget biology, which is your DNA and how you inherit this disease or illness, sometimes mental health can be made. You can experience it because of the trauma, because of things that happen to you. It can come about. Similar to postpartum depression, for example, when women have children, they become depressed. They weren't depressed, they were fine, but they have a child and all of a sudden they develop depression. It's because the change that is happening to them brings this to the forefront. So things can come up, anxiety can come up. You don't have to have a family history. You can develop anxiety just because you interacted at the hospital. You went to the hospital and you had a severe disease where you had a surgery and then you contracted another disease on top of what you went in for. Now you have a phobia and saying, I'm never going to go back to the hospital because they made me ill. So you have fear, and that fear becomes polarized, becomes bigger. And now you're washing your hands 24/7. You're making sure that nobody comes in contact with you. You're saying, I can't breathe because you're breathing and your germs. I mean, mental health can come into our healthy self-being.
Yeah, for me, I think mental health is a condition in regards to somebody's emotional, psychological, and social well-being. And when we discuss mental illness, it's to the point where a condition or like a psychopathology in their mind affects their mood, affects their behaviors, how they think about things critically and stuff. And I think Saida really did give a lot of examples of mental illnesses, such as depression, such as anxiety, OCD is another one, ADHD, a lot of things that people don't really consider mental illnesses, such as eating behaviors too, can be one, and substance abuse. Basically, it just encompasses the mental health. I think umbrella encompasses a lot of different disorders, and I think in the Somali community, we just mainly focus on disorders that I guess would be considered wali, but I think there's more than that. It has to do with personalities, it has to do with anxiety and a lot of different things, and not just schizophrenia or somebody having delusions or somebody thinking that there's somebody inside me speaking and hearing voices. So I just wanted to kind of also put that out there, that it's just a lot of different things, not just somebody who is crazy who is talking to themselves. Yeah.
Next question. Do you think your religion or culture or some other aspects of your identity or background influences how you think about mental health? If so, how? Maxaa malanaysaa dhaqan ahaan, diin ahaan, saa uga fikirnaa marka laga hadlaayo qofka caafimaadkiisa oo weliba maskaxda ku saabsan oona dhimarka ahaan oo dhimarkana ku jiro.
Yeah, a lot of people, I think as far as religion goes, people say that if somebody is experiencing a mental illness, it's because they have a lack of faith, or they're not as connected to God, they're not praying. And I think that's what, especially in the Muslim community, that's what people's go-tos are. Like if you're connected to God, you don't be experiencing this thing. If you don't have trust in God, you're not going to be experiencing these things. But I think it's also important to know that we're human beings at the end of the day. We all have emotions. We all go through things. Even the prophets, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all of them went through depression. All of them went through tests and trials. So it's not always a negative thing. I think the religion also advocates for getting help too when somebody is mentally not feeling well and stuff. And there is certain ways to go about it. But our religion for sure doesn't not acknowledge that mental health is a thing, However, I think cultural-wise, it's different. I think that's where the stigma and negativity come from and stuff about people not really being able to ask for help because, oh, you're crazy, or like you don't know what it is that you're talking about, and a lot of other cultural things that play a part and play in it. Yeah.
I feel like it plays huge on the role of like culture, and I feel like people just jump to conclusion. I feel like it takes a lot of guts for someone to say, I have a problem. And then I feel like people bring in, they're like, oh, go to your religion. It's like, of course, I think the person checked in within the religion, but they just need something outside of it. But then you pushing them out and saying, like, no, I think it's religion, that just brings a different side of it. Then they run away from the religion part. Mm-hmm. Then the cultural part is always, oh, it's jinn. Like, you have nothing else. You have to wear it. Just go to the massage and whatever. So then that just isolates the person and then just creates more of a bigger problem for them. That's why I kind of think the religion has it does have ways to help us out, but I feel like there's other steps that need to be taken.
I agree. I think it's a lot of it's miseducation. Mm-hmm. We tend to lump religion and culture together and do not separate the two. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it can be applied to many situations, and mental health is one of the examples. And behavioral health and how to address people with behavioral health issues or people who are experiencing behavioral health. Like you said, there's always that misconception that's always jinn. And even like the Quran, the prophets do talk about grief and talk about sadness, and they also talk about ways that they coped with certain experiences that they had in their life. And that itself is an example for us that we can apply and also turn to other resources as well that we can that can help us as well. It's not just always turn to the Quran, but it's also you can use the Quran and also other resources to help you navigate someone who's experiencing mental health illnesses, or if you yourself are experiencing some sort of hardship in your life.
What stigmas, misconceptions are associated with mental health in the Somali Muslim community? How has shame or ape culture and silence contributed to mental illness in the community as a whole?
You want to touch on that?
Yeah. Maxaa la yidhaahdaa horta qofka waanuu marka qofka xanuunsanayo ama jirhka hadday tahay ama maskaxdiisa hadday tahay haddaa deg deg caafimaad hadduu u helo rajo weyn buu leeyahay. hadday gacan ku xanuunaysa oo kale wiig ku xanuunaysa dhakhtar haddaa u tagtid isla wiigaas rajo weyn baa leedahay, laakiin haddaa bil gacantaas meel ku qarisid way kasii daraysaa. mental healthkana waa isku mid un. hadduu qof depressed yahay oo la qariyo 3 bilood la qariyo, ama qof isla wiigaas la geeyey meel qofka isla wiigaas meesha la geeyey ayaa rajo weyn leh. marka qofka lagu caayo ama ceeb laga dhigo wixii caadiga iska ahaa, qofku wuu isqarinayaa, reerkana way sii qarinayaan. waa run ina dadka dee quraan lagu akrinaayo iyo maxaa la yidhaahdaa salaad alla badiyo loo duceeyo qofkan aad bay u fiican tahay, laakiin dhinacii kalena waana raadsanaa maxaa la yidhaahdaa helpkii kale oo professionalka uu hayey waana ka raadsanaa. weliba dee haddaa ka baqanaysid qof gaal inaa u tagtid muslimna waa heli kartaa, laakiin waana dee aada u raadisaa siyaara areaga qof muslim oo mental health therapist ah, laakiin waa jiraan.
waxyaalaha ceebta keenaya waxa waaye af Soomaaliga ahaan يعني luqadda Soomaaliga waxaad moodaa inay waxyaalaha cudurrada ku taxalluqa ee faqri ka tahay oo eraygii yani depression oo kaleeto waali un baan haynaa, wax kale ma hayno. marka waalidiina ma ahan, waalidu waa kala tahay. xilli waxaa jirto depressionka qofku markuu madluunka yahay, madluunnimo waaye, yani madluunnima kugu soo saaidaysa. markuu qofku madluun yahay, marka madluunkiyaa kala leh stage, waa mild, waa moderate, waa severe. markuu qofku severely madluun yahay waa mar uusan sariirtii ka kici karin, wax qabsan karin. ma ahan inuu waalan yahay, laakiin ma awoodo qofkaas inuu wax qabsado. marka intuusan gaarin yani stagekaas uu severely u yahay madluunka, waxbaa laga qaban karay. laakiin markay halkaa gaarto waxaa laga yaabaa inuu xataa bilaabo hallucinations iyo waxyaalo kaleeto oo isla sheekaysto. marka waqtigaas ayay Soomaalidu arkaan oo qofkii xadki ka dhacay oo uu severely depressed yahay. severely depressed markuu yahay, marka wuxuu gaaray stage oo qofka uu daawo u baahanayo. daawada intuusan u baahan ka hor haddii wax laga qaban lahaay ama loo arki lahaa waxaan inay caadi yihiin, yani waxaa laga yaabaa qofkii inuu ka taxadiri lahaay ama uu ka hortegi kari lahaay dhibaatada intaysan harkaa gaarin. marka maadaama erayadii luuqadeena ay yihiin luuqado aan nala korin iyo dhibaatooyinka adduunka maanta aan la kulmayno aysan korin, ilaa afku wuu koraa, Englishku wuu koraa. maalinba waxaa la gaarayaa stage hadda muxuu ahay depression levels uu leeyahay. anxietygu it's all lumped, laakiin magacyo kala duwanay usii kala baxaysaa. marka luuqadii maadaama aysan koraynin, annagiyaana laka rabaa inaan dareeno ama aan u diyaarnahay nolosheeni maadaama aan meelahan joogno inaan wax ka bedelno si dadkeeni aan ugu faa'iideyno waxyaalaha aan la kulmayno maanta ama nolosha nooca ay tahay. Soomaaliya oo kaleeto for example, qofka markuu waasho waa la xiraa. way jiri jirtay oo maxay ahayd Mareykankaba waa la soo maray meel dadka isolation la gelin jiray. isbitaalaha western hadda wuu jiraa, wuxuu ku yaalaa washington state uu ku yaalaa meelo lagu karantiilo ayaa jira dadka maxay ahayd dhimirka ka xanuunsan oo looga baqayo inay ama ayagu isdilaan ama qof ay dilaan. marka yacni annagu xadkaas ma aanaan gaarin weli, laakiin waa wax la soo maray, wax la qariyana dhibaatadooda xal lagama helo, marka yaan la qarsanine yani hala raadsado mutacaamil.
How did the Somali war, refugee and immigrant experiences affect the mental health of the Somalis? Dagaalkii iyo qaxii iyo dhibaatada Soomaalida soo wada mareen maxay u geysatay caafimaadka maskaxdooda iyo niyaddaba?
I think a lot of as far as like the mental health illness thing goes, there is mental disorders that come from trauma-related incidents, like war, for example, poverty, a lot of different things. And when those things do go untreated, especially for like a very long time, you know, they develop into PTSD. And I think a lot of older generation Somalis suffer from that, whether they like to admit it or not. It's just being exposed to violence, it's being exposed to hunger, being exposed to poverty day in and day out for so many years, including like civil wars and everything, does affect one's mentally, you know. And I know a lot of people are resilient, especially Somali people. They have faced a lot of difficulties over time, and somehow we still stand, and somehow, you know, we overcome all those things. But the issue is with war and crime. There is a generation of people that did grow up in this environment every single day, and it did have an effect on them mentally, I think. And the thing that you said with, you know, if you have a broken arm and you don't see a doctor about it, the situation just gets worse and worse. Until one day, hopefully, I mean, not for it to happen or not wishing it to happen, until somebody does reach a breaking point. And then you have the people of the Somali generation that grew up in that type of environment, and then that came here and then were exposed to a whole different culture, a whole different world, and that also takes an effect, that also affects somebody's like mentally, you know. I think war is like a huge thing, you know, that a lot of countries are still facing till this day. But coming here and masking it and kind of like covering it up, it's not really a solution to the problem. And I think that's also where there's like this division between like Somali parents and their kids and them not understanding each other, you know. Yeah, there's just a whole lot. But war and crime and violence does have an effect on a community, whether they want to admit it or not. Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of intergenerational trauma comes in, and how coping mechanisms are passed down. Just the way you watch your parents, how they deal with life issues and trials and tribulations also impacts you and how you cope as an adult, or even as a young adult, with even with your life experiences. Sometimes you don't, you know, show or express emotions because you're taught at an early age that's not what you do, or if you do, you're seen as too weak, or you're seen as always the constant emotional child, versus, you know, you being brought up here where everything was emotional. Like, you know, if you watch a movie, you cry, you know, things like that is very foreign. And like, I feel like you have to kind of hide your tears when you're watching a movie.
Yeah.
Just because it's so like, you're installed at a young age how to be tough and how to be strong, which is not a bad thing necessarily, but at the same time, I think it affects us and how we process emotions when we get older in life. And then also the passing of intergenerational trauma. I think that really impacts, especially first generation immigrant children who are brought up here in the States or in any Western countries. That's different from back home, because the way that things are coped back home is not going to be mirrored here as someone who's brought and raised here. So I think there's where a lot of like tension comes between a child and a parent, and then also the child navigating a Western society where everything's expressed by emotion, you know, and also how you also navigate as a person and how you process your own emotions and your own feelings and how you express it, versus you just kind of like, you know, holding that in and but it makes us resilient at the end of the day, because we're a lot tougher than our peers, because we are able to we're able to fight through our challenges in life. But at the same time, there's also consequences for that too. If you don't, we have emotions for a reason. Allah created emotions for a reason, and if it's not dealt in the proper way, then it has an impact on us later on.
With refugees and immigrants, the other thing that is worth mentioning is that when people experience trauma, studies show that it's also, we carry trauma in our bodies. So we experience trauma, it can happen today, it can happen years ago, and may show up years later. It doesn't necessarily impact you as of it happened today. It can show later in life, and we also pass it on to our children by DNA, which means if I've experienced some form of trauma, I carry that in my body, and then as I have children or my children have children, that impact may somehow show up in life as that child being more vulnerable than its peers. The way that can be dealt with is if you recognize your own trauma and how it impacts you, you can work through it so you can help your child. With Somali community not having that education, it is really hard for parents to guide their children through that process. So we have to be mindful and aware as educators, as therapists who are working in the community, to be gentle with our community and not to kind of say we're resilient. Yes, we are resilient, but that resilience could backfire as well, because we're resilient, we're not sensitive to the one who's not. So we have to be careful how we navigate in our community and how we support themselves, because we know being Somali means you're awesome, but at the same time that could be itself a barrier, because recognizing your resilience and using it to help you move forward is good, but when everybody tells you you're strong, you're strong, you're strong, you start believing you're strong when you're really not. So we have to be careful. How does tribalism affect the mental health of Somalis? My favorite subject. qabiilku sidee u saameeyaa caafimaadka dhimirka ama maskaxda ee Soomaalida?
I didn't even know my own tribe until I think sophomore year of high school. Because in our house, our parents were the reason why they left Somalia is because of tribalism that destroyed the country. So I was always told that your tribe is Somali. And that was it. And then I was in this program where I was studying a language, and then there's a lot of different Somalis. So I grew up in a neighborhood there was no Somalis. So this was an eye-opening experience. And they're like, oh, what's your tribe? And I'm like, Somali. And they're like, that's not a tribe. And I was like, yeah, I know, but I don't know my tribe. So I went home, and my mom was like, no, you're not going to know your tribe. And then my dad was like, yeah, you're this tribe, but it shouldn't matter. So then I got what he said, and I went back to the group, and then they're like, oh, you're a killer, you're this and this. And I was like, what are you on about? So then it's but as I grown older, I asked myself, I'm like, why would this generation care so much about it if it was something that destroyed our country? And it's because of the parents, what they brought down to their children, and it is trauma also, and divisions within it, and it's feeling insecure, of putting other people down, feeling more superior than other people. It just doesn't make sense to me. And for example, from the Quran, Allah said, I created all these different tribes so you guys can be mixing and mingling to know each other. I believe tribes are important, they're cool, I think, for other reasons of bringing people together, or if there's a wedding or is there a funeral, for positive things, but not to bring other people down. And I feel like it's so irrelevant right now with where our country is right now in Somalia. So I just don't understand the meaning of it, and why would you want to carry that on? If you want to carry it for other reasons of preserving your culture, cool, do it. But if it brings another person down, just move along. And that's my opinion.
Like you mentioned when you're like, oh, you found out in high school and such, I found out the same
Mhm.
way. But honestly, it's like, it doesn't really affect me. That's my personal opinion about it. But it does affect a lot of people from like sub-tribes of, you know, the ones that we tend to neglect a lot. But Khabib does have, you know, a sense of pride, you know. And it does hold lineage and culture, and it uproots your ancestors and stuff. But besides that, I really don't think people our age or generations after us or generations to come, inshallah, should even put that into their mentality, you know. That's just my opinion, but yeah, I hope tribalism ends one day.
I feel like within even our friend groups, I feel like we don't even ask each other, like, I don't know, like, no one really asks, oh, what's your tribe? Like, honestly, no one would really know unless you go to the wedding, and then there's the barambo, and then they're running, and you're like, oh, you're that tribe,
Yeah.
and then no one will speak about it ever again.
No, it's just
And
like, you
that's
know,
it.
casual thing.
Yeah.
Or like getting to know one another. It's just casual. It's like, oh, I'm this, you're that. Okay, we're cool peeps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what I'd like to add is that tribalism can be a helpful factor in the Somali community, but it could be, as you already talked about, a very harmful aspect of the Somali culture, especially when it comes to the ways the smaller tribes are treated, talked about. In this country, nobody's trying to hurt someone else, but that's from a smaller tribe, but there's a lot of ways you can hurt someone by just talking about them in a low way. So that person in that smaller tribe will have that within them, you know. So it's when they're walking around, when they see a group of Somali people, they're gonna think all kinds of things, even though maybe nobody knows what their tribe is, but they have it inside of them, and that came from generations of oppression from the bigger tribes on the smaller tribes. I feel like there's a lot of hope for the next generation,
Inshallah.
but there is, inshallah, but there is, within the Somali community, I feel like tribalism and deen is one of those two things that I think is not going to change. Hopefully it will change the negative aspects into more positive ways, but I feel like it's not going to change. But then, you know, your younger generation, you guys don't even ask each other's tribe, which is great. So there's a lot of hope.
And I think with that, the internalized piece of I am a smaller tribe, or I don't have voice, or I don't matter, is the piece where it ties into mental health. If you're walking in this earth feeling you're not worthy or you're not enough, you internalize that. So how you show up in schools, how you show up in community, how you show up at work, working with a lot of African American population, they have that piece of internalized racism. So if you can look at tribal issues as a form of racism, the bigger tribes hold the power. So smaller tribes don't have a voice. They didn't have representation in Somali. They didn't exist in a sense. They were in the community but didn't have opportunities. When they came to work, when they came to educations, they were not in place of power. And that wasn't left back home. It shows up around here as well. So it's that internal, how do I see myself in the world, in my community? How do I show up? How do I ask for help? Who do I go to? So yeah, it's that internal voice struggle. And when you're met with dismissal, it is one of the biggest things that creates insecurity and sensitivity where no one else sees you.
So already we have to we already have to like deal with so many layers of being black, being Muslim, being Somali, and then tribalism. I feel like that's like we're already here trying to make ends meet, try to survive. Like, why do we need another stigma on top of that? That just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense, but
Yeah.
for our older generation, we come from that old Somali mentality, and if this is a Somali household, that plays a role. It's not like you left Somalia and you saw you saw how your people were living, and you're like, oh, that is terrible way to live. You bring that here too, and you're interacting with people. And if you mention in the aros, people hear their tribe and they jump. What does that mean? You're telling people, this is who I am. Recognize me, see me, so that you know. However that shows up for you. And if you're one individual who doesn't hear their tribe, doesn't see their people, what are you gonna feel? You're gonna feel
Like,
okay,
I feel like
I'm alone.
Yeah.
Isolation.
How does isms such as racism, classism, colorism, and Islamophobia affect the mental health of Black Muslims? maxaa la yidhaahdaa racismka iyo maxaa la yidhahdaa kala sareynta iyo
Midabka koor.
midabka qofka
Diinta.
midabkiisa iyo
Lagu
diinta
takooro.
weliba islaamka dadka lagu takooro sidee qofka u gashaa maskaxda healthka maskaxda caafimaadka maskaxda ama maxaa la yidhaahdaa fikirka caafimaadka fikirka. It really relates to the other question, the tribalism. Even though the Somali community has many tribes, the tribe that we have in America is the same one. We are Black, we are Muslim. That's the tribe we have, and I feel like that's the lowest tribe in the U.S. Hopefully that will change, but that's where we're at right now.
Because you're immigrant.
You're immigrant, you look different, you speak a different language, or you could speak a different language, you have two languages. So, yes, it will affect your mental health if, this is just my opinion, if you are isolated. So if you're not being supported within your community, the positive support from your community, for example, it doesn't have to be the larger community, it could be just your family. Someone explaining to you why this person said this, or a negative word to you, and you were just sitting in class. If you don't have that support, it can easily devolve into some sort of anxiety or depression or any other mental illness.
I think it's also parallel to the tribalism that you were touching on earlier. These are all parts of your identity. All these isms, classism, racism, Islamophobia, some of these are that you're born into, or some of these are based off decision. So you being someone who is Black, Muslim, and an immigrant, all these are parts of your identity, and also they can also, growing up in a country where you are seen as other or is deemed as other, you can cause isolation at an early young age, can cause anxiety. At the same time, can also cause adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, which also impact your overall health. If you're constantly being bullied for who you are, for your identity, if you're constantly being harassed, if you're constantly living in fear, that also impacts your overall health, because not only are you in constant fear of your safety, but you're also, it also can cause paranoia. It can also cause other illnesses to develop, because you're always in the state of flight or fight. You know, because you're always, okay, if I walk down the street wearing a hijab, I know that I might be targeted, and they can also cause other issues for you to appear. But at the same time, I think if you are if you try to put yourself in a community where people who look like you, who also experience the same lived experience as you, it can also build confidence for you, because you know that's a shared experience, and that you're not the only one that's going through this, or you're not the only one that's being targeted. I know social media has a huge impact on that, and the way we think, and we're constantly seeing images, even right now with what's going on with Representative Ilhan Omar, and you know how that impacts your well-being, because you're seeing her being targeted, and then you also, you know, you're probably going to a workplace or school where it's predominantly people who don't look like you, and how does that affect you, because you also have to constantly speak up or have to like fight back for your rights, and I feel like that can contribute to a lot, because it can be overall draining mentally and also physically, because you always have to be in defense mode, and nobody likes to be in defense mode. But I highly recommend, there's every year in July, the Black Muslim Psychology Conference puts on a weekend conference, and I highly recommend if anyone has that opportunity to go. It always takes place in Philadelphia, and it's a platform and a safe space for people who are Black, who are Muslim, to come together and just talk about mental health and how it impacts you as not only as a Black person in America, but also as a Muslim. And it also creates a safe space because you're interacting with other mental health practitioners, but also other people who look like you in a space that's predominantly full of Black Muslims. And it allows you to kind of express yourself in a way that I think everyone has to experience. Because if you never see, I think there's not a lot of safe spaces where people can talk about being a Black Muslim or being an immigrant and being a Muslim at the same time. There isn't a lot of spaces like that for us to come and also seek our deen and also be proud of who we are. Like, it doesn't always have to be bad. It doesn't always have to be like, oh, we have to focus on the negative. Oh, what, you know. I think we can also honor that and create those spaces amongst ourselves, so we can not only build that self-confidence within, but also break down systematic barriers as well.
What's dangerous about the belief that having mental illness means you are not religious or close to God? What's the role of faith in spiritual and mental liberation?
Okay. maxay dhibaato keentaa ama maxaa la yidhaahdaa qofka dhimarka haya in laga hayo in lagu yidhaahdo maxaa la yidhaahdaa dee si fiican u tuko ama badi diintaada badi ducada badi masaajidka tag
يعني habkeed maskaxdaada uga xoreyn kartaa cudurrada maskaxda ku dhaca ama maaragtay dhimirka ku dhaca
weliba faith
adoo diinta
Niyadda.
isticmaalaya
Diinta isticmaalaya.
adoo diinta u adeegsanaya yacni xoreyntaas horta awalan ilaahay subxaana wa tacaala ayaa cudur kasta keena ama wadna xanuun ha ahaado ama cancer ha ahaado ama maxay ahayd cudur kale ha ahaado awalan inaad aaminsan tahay in ilaahay kugu filan yahay cudur kasta oo kugu dhaca aadna diintii u isticmaalaysid inaad ilaahay u dhawaato adoo ku xamdi naqaya cudurkan kugu yimid lana kaashanaya inaad dabeecadahaadii wax ka bedasho sababtoo ah cudurna daawo u baahan yahay cudurna wuxuu u baahan yahay hab dhaqameedkaadii inaad wax ka bedasho anxiety oo kaleeto for example haddaa usoo qaato waxa waaye thoughtskaada oo kugu soo noqnoqonayo yacni ma fiicno qof fiican ma ihi ama waa cabsanayaa in marka aad raadiso waxyaalo xaqiiq ah oo cabsidaan keenayo maxaan ka cabsanayaa horta cabsidaan xagee ka imaanaysaa haddaan ka cabsanayo inaan albaabka ka baxo oon dhakhtarka aado horay dhakhtarka ma u tegay yacni haddaad salaad tukato laakiin oo salaaddii intaad tukanaysa dhexdeeda aad walwalaysidoo waswaas ku hayo salaaddii laftigeeda ma ahan salaad oo markaas aad ilaahay toos yacni u weydiisanayso inuu ku caafiyo ilaan maskaxdii baa isba bedelaysa adoo salaaddii ku dhex jira marka connectionkii baa ba'aya marka in maaragtay qofku uu tartiibaad isugu dayo inuu asoo qur-aankiisina akhrisanaya salaadiisina tukanaya uu yahay qof dareemaya maskaxdii waxa ay samaynayso badanaa dadku ma dareensana yacni maskaxdii erayadii iyo jirkii siday isu bedelayeen waxaa laga yaaba markaa anxious tahay inaad dareentid muxuu ahay dadna waxay dhahaan wadnahayga xoog u garaacayo dad waxay ku leeyihiin yacni waa dhididaya gacmihii waa dhididayo because maxaa la jira anxiety-gii marka inaad dareemi kartid horta what is happening physically and emotionally and psychologically marka aad yacni aragto thoughtkii waxbaad dareemaysaa then waxaad u dhaqmaysaa hab ka duwan habkii aad rabto inaad u dhaqanto oo anxiety-ga marka inaad dareemaysid thoughtkii markuu yimaado dareenkii aad lahayd jirkaadu lahayd iyo habka aad u dhaqantay for example haddii ay ahayd goolkaadu inaad albaabka ka baxdo dhakhtar aado markuu thoughtku yimaado cabsidii ay timaado jirka wuxuu dareemaya wadnihii inuu garaaco wadnihii markuu garaaco then ma baxaysid waad isbedeshay waxaad tiri I'm not going because waxbaa igu dhacaya haddaan baxo so qofka horta wuxuu u baahan yahay inuu alla isku xiro alla isku xiradiisii ka sokow uu fahamsan yahayba psychologically what is happening in their body and in their physical self uu isku dayo marka in uu thought processka markay joogto fikirkii markay joogto fikirku uu yiraahdo maxaa ihaya markaad dareentid markaas aad feelingkii isku daydo inaad wadnihii dejiso jirkaada aad oxygen siiso breathing aad samaysid inaad adi isdejin kartid markaad isdejiso then waa suuragal in behavior ka duwan ma baxayo aad la timaadid.
It's a very good explanation.
One
Yeah.
aspect of it.
Very good explanation.
You brought up a good point, and I also think the dangers of always telling somebody, oh, you lack faith or you're not connected to God, it kind of invalidates and takes away from what that person is feeling.
Mhm.
And I feel like that can also push the person further away from seeking that relationship with God. Because they're saying, oh, okay, if people are already saying this stuff about me, you know, then I'm probably, you know, like, what's the point of me even reaching out to God now if I'm already going through this by myself and nobody's really understanding me? It takes away from whatever it is that person's feeling, whether that's their thoughts, their thinking, their emotion and stuff. And I think it also takes away from that person seeking professional help too. I think God does make us go through things in life, but he also doesn't burden us more than we can handle, you know. And I think it's also important to remind people, if somebody does come up to you and say, you know, lately I've been feeling down, lately I'm not really feeling like myself. Yes, you know, like, have faith and trust in God that you can overcome this. You will overcome it, because God is not going to put any more pressure on you that you can't handle. But also, you know, if this stuff is kind of like lasting and you've done everything, like you've prayed, you've been to the mosque, you've done everything, like given sadaqah, you know, fasted, and these feelings and these thoughts are still there, then it's time for you to actually go seek help, which is also okay, because that is the next, you know, the next step in whenever you try to reach out to God, the next step is seeking what other help in the worldly life there is that you could go to. So the dangers of it is you kind of take away from the person's feelings and thoughts, but also you kind of take away from them seeking professional help either, too. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And like asking yourself the question, why am I feeling like this? Like for me, I have anxiety over when I have exams.
Mm-hmm.
Like I freak out, psych myself out, because like I was like, why do I feel like I'm having anxiety over the test? It's like fear of failing. So you got to first recognize what's the problem and how can I treat it. And then I was like, okay, because I notice when I'm stressed, I hold in, as I feel like everyone kind of does, we all hold in our breath in, we don't even notice it. So relaxing your shoulders, unclenching your jaw, those are like the first steps that you do. Recognizing it, and then figuring out ways of how you can improve it. Within, you can give yourself a couple of days. Give yourself rules of like saying, my goal is for almost 10 to 15 days. I feel like a prayer for me is kind of like meditation. When I hear all this like mental health stuff of like ways to cope with it, like prayer is the best way. I feel like that's a time where even prostrating like and laying down and just feeling like everything is off your shoulders feels good. Doing things that you can incorporate your religion into it, speaking to someone, because I feel like before someone even comes to you, they check themselves, like, is this okay for me? Can I speak to this person? Am I in a safe environment? And I feel like that's what the other person, if I were to, the person should be open and be like, I understand, I will find ways to help you, because she may not have the answers that I'm looking for, but then her being open to me, that can help me on my path of really getting rid of my anxiety or schizophrenic or any other issues that I'm having within myself. I always preach about having an open community, an open dialogue, finding a group of people or even one person that you can talk to and communicate. I feel like the time when you talk, I feel like that just relieves stress off of you. And I feel like you just bottle so much things inside that we don't even notice. We internalize a lot of things. We have conversations with ourselves. But you need someone else to be like, okay, I understand what you're going through, and this is how I can help you.
Just like our physical well-being needs to be maintained periodically, like eating healthy, working out, exercising, all that, as we also have to maintain our spiritual well-being, and those two are interconnected. And I feel like words are very powerful. Just because someone may not be at the same level at spiritual connection as you are, I think we have to be very careful. And when we say things like, oh, it's because you are not religious enough, because only Allah knows, because that's a personal connection between that person and Allah. And I think we have to be very mindful, because words have power. And if we say things unintentionally, we don't know how much of a damaging effect it may have on that person. It could be a long-term effect, and we don't want to be, you never want to be in a position where you are responsible for someone having the connection with their Lord. Like, you never want to be in that position where you have an impact on someone to the point that they remove themselves from a Muslim or like an environment where they can increase in their spirituality. Mm-hmm. So I think that it's very mindful, even when our friends or people who we come in contact talk about their feelings and emotions and they open up to you, I think we should be very careful instead of just like pushing them off, like, okay, if you feel that way, you know, like how to digress into it instead of just like, okay, like you're not religious, you're not, you know, like I don't think that's anyone's position to categorize anyone as being deemed as religious or not. So I think we have to understand that words have power, and like the way we express our words can have a detriment effect on someone's spiritual relationship with their Lord.
Mm-hmm. And in the Somali community, our community, sometimes we say something first and then we think about it, or we don't think about it, we just say something that could be really offensive to a friend, family member, and it's I think it's just part of the culture of joking a lot with each other. But then imagine saying something that's harmful to someone who's already dealing with anxiety or depression, and they were keeping it to themselves. They will just even hide even further. So just like you said, being mindful of what you're saying, how you're saying things to people in general.
So I feel like within our culture, we always want to like nagnol sadig, like for like the woman, like you have to be tough, show the exterior, and then there's like a fear of showing your emotions, of like they'll think less of you, and I feel like we always talk about how other people perceive you, and that's huge within our community. So someone doesn't want to feel like they want to lose that social kind of status of someone that has it all together to a person of like, because easily. I know within our culture, like if someone is disabled, we're like, oh, this person look makawan or something. Like they notice something characteristics from the outside, so then they could be like, oh, like that was the crazy person or this, or she's going through depression. So they don't want to be stigmatized, and that plays like a huge role of a person coming out and saying, I have this problem, how can you help me?
Yeah.
Why is it common to do Quran Sar in our community when dealing with hardships such as mental illness or defiant behavior, instead of focusing on root cause of the issue? Somali ahaan communitygeena maxaa ugu degdegnaa Quraan saarka markay timaado dhimarka ama maxaa la yidhaahdaa qofka reer oo ama qof reer ku jira dhibaato uu geysaday oo kasoo hada qaad inuu gang ku jiro oo kale ama askarta un markasta daba socdaan. Instead of focusing on the root cause of the issue, waxaana u arki la'nahay dhibaatada asalka ah.
We run to like Quran Sar because Somali community only knows mental illness as like this person being crazy, this person having jinn in them. So if somebody is considered to be crazy, of course, or they have jinn or things speaking inside them, of course, number one thing to do is Quran Sar, because Quran is medicine, you know. I think that's why we often like rush into it, and I think another reason is because there's not a lot of psychoeducation behind it, because they think the only mental illness thing that could happen is somebody being crazy. They don't really know, as a community, we're not really educated on other disorders that somebody could face, and how to really treat it, you know, because some things, of course, Quran is a cure for a lot of things, but then other things have to be treated in a different way, just like as if you go to a doctor for heart disease, he's going to give you certain medications that maybe like reduce your blood pressure or something like that. Same thing goes with mental illness. You could go to a sheikh or like an imam, you could have like 50 people read Quran on you, but then you also have to go through like a talk therapy and also get to the root of the problem too. So I think just not really being educated on mental illness and just realizing that it's not always somebody that's crazy. Yeah.
But like for example, like you said about the doctors, there's some medicines that will work, some of them can't work, or sometimes you have to use two things, and it's a learning process along the way. Quran Sar, yes, do it. I'm advocate for like do it, but still have other things. Figure out ways to like where they can talk to people, setting up that environment for them. I just feel like we just need to be more open and understanding of different methods.
I agree. I think Quran Sar is a good method. Quran is a form of protection, and even us reciting our daily afkars and also using the Quran as a manual to life is a way for us to navigate our own issues in life. But at the same time, I feel like I wish the people who are conducting the Quran Sar would have like that follow-up session, like what are you, what are you experiencing other than just reading the Quran, which is perfect. You can read Quran to someone, but I think I wish I saw more imams or people who are sheikhs or who are in those roles, in those community roles, to take on that discussion where not only, okay, this person is coming to you because they need Quran, but they're also coming to you because there's maybe you're a form of counseling for them that they can't seek. Like asking follow-up questions to both the family and the person who's really reciting Quran is like, what are their patterns of behavior? What are they experiencing? Are they in isolation? Do they not want to communicate with people? Are they taking care of their personal hygiene? Things like that. I think those basic things I wish, not just reading the Quran, which is great, but also if they have those follow-up pieces to it, like asking the family who lives with the person or even the person, I think that will have more of a positive impact on that person. And it's because I feel like just with the whole stigma of seeking mental health services or mental health resources, I think that's a gateway for us, our communities, a safe gateway for us to go that way. Because if your family is going to force you to go through like Quran Sar, then that can also open up dialogue as well as build a foundation. Okay, it's not just the Quran part, but it's also what are some patterns and behaviors that can be addressed, and what can they distinguish between evil eye, jinn, and things like that. So people, because if you know the behaviors of what those things are, then you can differentiate, okay, this person's just going through depression versus it being the evil eye or things like that.
So our community, I feel like loves its deen. So the immediate thing we like to do is go for the deen. So get the Quran instead of getting a mental health professional in, which is a wonderful thing, and it's always helpful to read the Quran on someone. But also, it shows how we as a community look at mental illness on the because if someone is having a serious illness, like if he has or she has the flu, I don't feel like people will get the Quran as fast. The people will say, oh, Allah do you, but they have in their mind, this person needs to go to the doctor, emergency room maybe, or maybe we have medicine in our cabinets, and then we can give them to help them reduce the fever. People will check their head to see how high the fever is. So it just shows us how the Somali community looks at, our community looks at mental health. So it's sort of still up in the air. It might not be something real happening for that person, in the sense that something physical. So it could be, I feel like it's maybe 70%, yes, spiritual. So invisible, you can't see it, so it must be spiritual. But yes, Quran Sar, I think it's a great thing to do for anything. Even just if someone is not even sick, when they are relaxing or taking a walk, just saying prayers, it's a wonderful thing to do, mashallah. You get achar, you get niyada also. Alhamdulillah.
And I think you brought up a good point. I think a lot of cultures do describe psychological or feelings of things inside as somatic, so it's hard to really explain what you're feeling to somebody like an imam if you're feeling like depressed or like anxious, whereas it would have been just easier to say, oh, like my heart doesn't feel okay, my head is hitting like problem,
Can you explain somatic a little bit?
Somatic are just, I guess, terms that people explain to describe physical feelings. So a somatic complaint would be like, oh, my heart has been hurting, I have this pain in my leg. That's how a lot of cultural communities are known to describe what they feel. And a lot of the communities don't really understand what mental health is, so it's harder for them to really explain what they're feeling, basically. Yeah.